one of the big things which was happening is that we saw a lot of people investing a lot into homes to that extent, and they were investing a lot of emotional energy which was going in terms of making the homes at that point of time. We felt that Asian Paints wanted to be part of that emotional energy, and that's what possibly was the germination of the concept of saying Har Ghar. Across generations and across times, homes would continue to remain as a place of belongingness, as a place where people come together, as a place where everyone gathers around and gets the joy and happiness of life to that extent. So I think that is one thing which possibly as a leader I always appropriate in terms of bringing to life.
You see it, you connect to it, and you've honestly understood the core essence. जैसे लोग कहते हैं कि मकान किसी का हो सकता है पर घर मेरा है, and that's the emotional core.
Yeah.
In every boardroom, behind every market shift, and at the heart of every bold business decision, there's a leader whose story deserves to be told. Welcome to Leadership Lessons, an HT Smartcast exclusive, where we deep dive beyond the numbers and the titles to truly uncover the human side of leadership. I'm your host, Stuti Ghosh, and in this episode, we're joined by a leader who honestly truly redefines what it means to build a brand that stays in people's hearts and, more importantly, homes, quite literally. We have Mr. Amit Syngle, Managing Director, CEO of Asian Paints Limited. So excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be kind of really sitting with you and answering some of the great questions you're going to ask me.
The pleasure is all mine. And for the benefit of everyone, I want to tell you, we are going to have this conversation, and through the course of this discussion, truly understand and would want you to paint a picture with words about Har Ghar Kuch Kehta hai, an iconic campaign that everyone knows and remembers your brand by. We want to understand what it means to actually build a brand and sustain it. It's a legacy that people connect to, and there's honestly so much that we're looking forward to today. So we'll dive straight in. Har Ghar Kuch Kehta hai, the genesis of this really, how did it happen?
So, when we look at the whole emanation of Har Ghar, we go back to early 2000 when we really started appropriating homes. That was a time when festivals were very big at that point of time, and we said one of the big things which was happening is that we saw a lot of people investing a lot into homes to that extent, and they were investing a lot of emotional energy which was going in terms of making the homes at that point of time. We felt that Asian Paints wanted to be part of that emotional energy to that extent. We wanted to be part of that high voltage emotion which was coming in terms of making a home at that point of time, and that's what possibly was the germination of the concept of saying Har Ghar, so that we could kind of really start owning homes with a very different energy and a very different emotion which kind of comes in. And where we felt very clear is that when we look at people who stay within the homes, they have their own personality, they have their own kind of attitude which they bring to the whole game of homes, and we wanted to appropriate people who stay within the homes, and therefore we said every homeowner has a personality, and Har Ghar really kind of brings that personality alive to that extent. And that is how possibly the whole campaign evolved in terms of looking at saying that we need to have that emotional connect with the homeowners, because one of the essence at Asian Paints which has always been is to kind of bring happiness and joy to people's lives. And we felt that home is a place where possibly all that happiness and joy kind of cumulatively comes together, and what better place to kind of own homes and really reflect people who stay within those homes, so that we can really nurture it in a very big way to that extent. So I think that's been the core of our thought, and that has been the core philosophy, and we have lived with this for the last overall from almost 2 decades. And we think that this has been something which always has been the backbone. It has been the flag bearer. It has been the flagpole of our own strategy in terms of really connecting with people and really seeing that we are able to embrace this entire thing of identity, love, and belongingness, which is timeless.
I think this is honestly the key because there have been campaigns, there have been ads, but then there is Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, which everyone, it's almost unskippable. You see it, you connect to it, and you've honestly understood the core essence. जैसे लोग कहते हैं कि मकान किसी का हो सकता है पर घर मेरा है, and
Absolutely.
that's the emotional core.
Yeah.
And in modern homes today, it's that emotion and the design that comes together. And in so many ways, Asian Paints is the leader in that. Now, we have a new version of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. Speak to me about this and tell us how it carries forward that legacy.
So when we looked at saying that how do we carry this whole legacy of Har Ghar forward, we looked at also the changing environment. We looked at that lifestyles were changing, aspirations were changing, people who inhabit the homes were changing. There were multi generations who were coming together. We had the millennials and the Gen Zs who were kind of coming in coexistence with some of the older generations together. And what was changing was today everything about home to that extent in what people were seeing. There was a more modern, more contemporary take in terms of how people were imagining their homes. People could kind of visualize their homes through technology which is coming. People are well traveled now in terms of saying that they want the best of the world coming into their homes to that extent. With all this environment changing, we felt that we need to kind of look at a very different take in terms of looking at how possibly the emotions around the home were changing, how it was enveloping various generations which was coming into that extent. And therefore, the brief which we had in our mind, which we gave to the agency Ogilvy, was the fact that we want the same nostalgia, we want the same love, we want the same connectedness, we want the same emotion, but we want a far modern take on it. We want a more up contemporary take from a point of view of the diverse generation which were now embracing the home to that extent. And that is how this campaign evolved, where we said that it has to have a language which is subtle, it has to be quirky. At the same time, it is something which really has the connectedness of the emotion which is timeless, which comes in, because that's what basically connects people in a very, very different way. And I must say that when we reached out to Piyush, who wrote the lines for the campaign, I think we went through various cycles how we could kind of make it relevant to the current generation and how we could kind of really get the same magic of what we created with Har Ghar and bring it alive through the campaign in terms of how it has unfolded. So I think it's a story of a lot of labor of love which went in terms of thinking about how to kind of make this relevant. At the same time, the core philosophy of connectedness, the whole core philosophy of the emotions which it brings is so very relevant to that extent, but it had to just take the tweak in terms of making it relevant to the current generation and to the current times.
Yeah, that's beautifully explained. You said something very interesting. Almost 2 decades with this campaign, and you spoke about Gen Zs, and there's a whole group that's so scared of them, right? So you have a new generation, you want to understand how they relate to your product. Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, again, kept that nostalgia alive. But with your vision and under your leadership, now that you have this new version, what are some of the things that you feel, irrespective of how many years go by and whether it's generation beta or alpha, what are some of those things about this brand that will remain timeless?
So, if you look at this industry, world over, this industry is very, very rational. It talks of a lot of functionalities which it is there, whether it is the rationality of looking at durability, whether it is in terms of stain resistance, whether it is crack pitching capability, and so on and so forth. Asian Paints has always carved a path which is very different from others. And we have looked at saying that can we be connected with the person from the point of view of connectedness to the heart? And we've always spoken of this share of the heart in terms of what we can nurture for people rather than looking at the share of the wallet to that extent. And that has been, I think, the difference the brand has made today in terms of saying that through the times and through the generations, how can we be connected in terms of a very strong emotional connect which comes in, so that to not only today even 5 years later or 10 years later, when people think about the brand, there is an emotional tug which comes in. There is this whole feeling of belongingness which comes in. There's a whole feeling in terms of a nurturing of that love which comes in a very big way to that extent. And always, possibly, the emotional tug will be very big in terms of an unshakability which will happen. And what more is that fact, we felt that across generations and across times, homes would continue to remain as a place of belongingness, as a place where people come together, as a place where, everyone gathers around and gets the joy and happiness of life to that extent. So I think that is one thing which possibly as a leader I always appropriate in terms of bringing to life. And we think that as we kind of go ahead, the emotional kind of connect which Asian Paints will have with people coming around will always be our prime target in terms of what we will continue to nurture.
This is so interesting. This is leadership lessons, and we've been hearing terms like heart and emotion and connect and home. So that really tells you where this brand stands. With this new campaign, and I want to understand what were, because the brand has evolved, people have evolved. What are some of the lessons that you have understood over the years and has been the biggest learning?
So one of the big lessons is that as kind of brand evolution happens, we have to also keep a very strong eye in terms of looking at how the customer is evolving. We have to have a strong ear to the ground in terms of saying that we are hearing the voice of the consumer very strongly. And what we have learned over the thing is that one thing which is constant with the brand Asian Paints is innovation. And that is something which has been one of the basic core areas which we have evolved in terms of looking at really appropriating decor, appropriating the world of colors, appropriating the world of differentiation in terms of what you can bring in the world of home. And not only that, the whole world of personalization and customization has become very, very important. And we've used technology very strongly, and currently AI very strongly in terms of seeing how we can look at personal ambitions, personal aspirations to integrate with what the brand can offer.
Correct.
And that kind of really is a nuance which has been very, very strong with us, which we have kept our eyes and ears to the ground in terms of looking at that. We always appropriate the voice of the customer very strongly, and in our innovation, as we kind of evolve as a brand, we are always true to this entire phenomena of saying before a customer can think of what they want, we are able to kind of offer that to the customer in a very big way to that extent. And that's how our entire journey in terms of saying that we kind of graduated from the share of surface within the home to the share of space, where our entire journey of frame from surface decor to the entire home decor. And that's what we saw it pretty early in terms of how what customer wants.
So technology, creativity coming together, and people first thinking, that is, I think, some of the biggest trends of this brand. I think a takeaway for everyone who's listening to you, watching you right now, what would you say when you want to build a brand that sustains over decades and is continues to be part of a person's life through generations? What are some of the things that one must keep in mind?
So, the basic thing is that I think we should never lose sight of the core purpose of the brand. Okay, if the core purpose with Asian Paints is bringing joy and happiness to people's lives, I think the core purpose should always stay. The way you kind of emanate it, the way you kind of really make it possible for the people can change, and it has to be based on the line of innovation, technology, perceptions in terms of what is changing to that extent. And you need to kind of evoke the new. You need to kind of stay in tune with the times in terms of what is changing and able to offer people a future, a dream which possibly they will think along with the brand as they kind of emanate to that extent. So I would just say that the core purpose is something which should kind of always remain, because that's the brand essence. And you keep on really evolving and giving customers something which they have never imagined, so that the whole area of reimagination kind of becomes the core of that purpose in terms of what you are kind of leaving the customers with.
Mr. Single, you are helming this so beautifully, and you have been speaking about the brand. You spoke about this new campaign, Har Ghar Kuch Kehta hai. But what are some of the life lessons that you hold dear, that you as a person, they've made you who you are and have shaped your leadership?
So see, over now a span of 3 decades in the organization, one feels as passionate and as close to the brand in terms of how
How
we
does
have
one
kind
keep
of
that
evolved.
passion alive? A
Yeah.
lot of people would envy that.
And like we say that we have one of the colors which is pure red, and the joke which is there is that today, if we were to kind of take blood, that will be the shade of the pure red in terms of what would come out. So I would say that the passion is something which is a very strong learning which I've had, that today whatever you do, if your heart is in it and if you believe in it, it is something which possibly will propel the brand in terms of going forward. The second area is that there is no alternate to hard work and perseverance. I think that is always the essence in terms of looking at how you will be able to kind of be always thinking about the brand and taking it and propelling it in a very different way in terms of how you would kind of see it. And the third area which is always learned is that think from the point of view of the customer and think like an entrepreneur. Okay, I think that's a very big area, because as an organization you will become bigger and bigger to that extent, but you have to always behave like a startup. And that's how I think is something which is my journey has been, that every time we have looked at conquering a certain peak, we have looked at saying what's the startup idea here in terms of looking at starting something new to that extent. So I think the world of innovation kind of stems from that very clearly, where you kind of keep on the passion alive, keep on looking at the perseverance you put in, and at the same time behave like a startup and keep your eyes and ears to the consumer.
Lovely. So that startup energy is something that's
Absolutely.
precious, and we have to keep
Absolutely.
it going. Coming back to this campaign, a lot of people might argue that Har Ghar Kuch Kehta hai, iconic. They think of your brand, they think of this campaign. You decided to revive it. Uh, why has this remained a core? You could have gone probably with a brand new campaign altogether. Did you have discussions on that? Did you think about why you want to return to the core?
So today, various researches over a period of time, when we emanated into this campaign way back in 2002, I think every research showed very clearly that one of the areas which is possibly remaining timeless is the emotions about the home to that extent. And we felt that there is nothing else possibly we need to appropriate as we kind of really evolve as a brand, but basically owning the home will become more and more. And that is why we kind of really reinforced our belief by entering the whole area of share of space, by entering home decor also very strongly to that extent. So I think we always believed that the whole area of looking at emotions around the home, the belonging, the love is timeless. And that is something which we felt that with even the evolution of the newer generation, people coming alive over the last 2 decades, and we believe that going forward, this is one area which will always remain very, very strong. The joy of homecoming, when you are
Yeah.
kind of coming from a place, and you have kind of left your home to kind of do a job, but the joy of homecoming, especially around festivals, I think is unparalleled. It is something which is like an umbilical cord which kind of pulls you every time back. And therefore, every time we researched, we found that this is a gold mine which we can't leave. And that is why we have nurtured it always and given it a new avatar in terms of going forward. And we feel this is something which is a mine, gold mine, which is now we are trying to convert into a platinum mine as we go ahead.
How lovely, amazing. Okay, as a leader, you spoke about your 3 decades of journey with the brand. You obviously understand the brand, you breathe it, you spoke about the color of the blood quite literally. Um, Leadership would have also given you a vantage point that helps you read people as well as you read color and space and design. What are some of the qualities that one must nurture to become a leader? For all those who want to sustain themselves and that startup energy that you spoke about, what are some of those qualities?
So one of the key areas which I look at from the point of view of really saying that a leader must have is the passion to kind of bring newness to the work you're doing. Okay, I think that is very, very essential. And I always tell people at any point of time when you don't have the passion, when you don't have the zest, when you don't feel that possibly I need to kind of hit work, okay, that is the point. You should always think in terms of what are you doing and what are you there for, to that extent. So I think that is paramount for me in terms of looking that the whole area of passion, achievement orientation is something which has to be prime. And if you think that you are in that genre of really creating something new, creating something which is aspirational and something which you are proud of, you will always kind of become a very, very strong leader in terms of how you will emanate and grow to that extent. And parallel to it, the other area is in terms of looking at saying that are you a game changer? Are you a game changer in terms of what you're bringing? A lot of people follow the line in terms of what's really happening, but is there anything which you contribute and something which possibly you say, this is my creation in terms of what I have done in terms of really contributing to the brand? So if you are a game changer, you have that passion in terms of what you work. I think those are basic tenets in terms of a very good leader.
How beautifully explained. Mr. Single, this has been an absolute pleasure. You've spoken from the heart about a brand that you've built with so much love, and you've given an insight to all of us about leadership. You know, Asian Paints in so many ways has told us that walls are not just about color. It is about emotion, about ownership, about an individual and what they want to claim as their own. And as Mr. Single said very beautifully, that every house has a story to tell. पर उसे ध्यान से सुनने की ज़रूरत है. So to listen to that, हर घर कुछ कहता है. All you have to do is listen. Thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Great. It was great speaking to you.
I'm Stuti and I'm signing off. Stay curious and stay excited.